So today our big question is, will AI replace prostitution? I feel like this is an important question. This has come up before. I mean, if we look at this Ex Machina, have you guys seen this movie before?
Yep. I can't get through it.
I mean, I don't know that I want to give this away. I mean, I guess we're going to go with the spoiler alert here. This guy's human. Oh, there's the evil genius.
But he built the robot.
I told you, you're wasting time bumping me. However, you would not be wasting your time if you were dancing with me.
All right, I don't know if we need to get into any more of this. So, Rob, you haven't seen this? I don't, do we do spoiler alerts? Do we just come out and say what's going on here?
Haven't seen the movie. Stop watching. Move on.
Yeah.
Let's talk.
I mean, if you're actually going to watch the movie, then forget about it. But Ex Machina is this is an AI bot that clearly had some pre-programming for how it was to serve its master, who is this guy here that created it. And so this idea of using AI, of bots, of robots to replace human interactions at all levels is clearly something that has been considered for a long time. In our research, we found a bunch of movies about this, which I had no idea. I mean, did you guys know about these things? As a matter of fact, apparently it is part of, okay, I'm gonna go through these. These are kind of creepy, these pictures. It's part of Barbie, they had one. This is Barbie, right?
I think that
Oh no, Lars and the real girl. This is not Ken.
That's not Ken.
Or is it? Or is it?
Or is it?
So, in all seriousness, like, could you justify if you could eliminate prostitution, eliminate then sex trafficking, or at least reduce it dramatically, right? Like, that's a terrible thing, like, horrible evil in the world that still exists. If you could eliminate that using artificial means, robots, would that be a good thing? Would the world be a
could
better
also
place?
decrease. Could also decrease STDs or sexual transmitted diseases, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, children, you could decrease reproduction, you could decrease the creation of families, you could decrease.
Well, no one's aiming to do that in that industry, though, right? That's not what prostitution's about. So,
Tell me more, Rob. What is what is it about?
well, I don't think anyone goes to a prostitute with the idea that they're falling in love and creating a family with him or her. So I'm trying to find a case against this. Like, why, if this replaced prostitution, that would be a bad thing. And I'm struggling.
So, all right, so your point or your question is you could be married but still have one of these because this is doing a separate thing?
Oh.
No, I do not remember saying that. So, I said that I am struggling to find the argument against why this replacing prostitution would be a bad thing, because it would eliminate human trafficking, all the issues that you mentioned previously.
Money out of some hardworking women's pockets.
Yeah, so I guess you could look at the different angles. So if you're libertarian and the women are it's legalized and they have the free choice to offer their services, you are essentially eliminating their jobs. You could take it a step, like I would guess. I don't know that I really want to search for this, but I would guess that you could replace most pornography with AI at this time.
Just want to take a step back. Are you suggesting a free market then? So where, or if prostitution is legal, you could also have this then, and it's just then it's about how well you market yourself or your AI bot if you're an AI pimp.
Well, if you were, yeah, so I did see an article at some point about like some guy that created a AI model and like created an OnlyFans or one of those type of accounts
Grant.
and is making money from a not human being. And so that's another like level. Like, okay, is there anything wrong with that? Like, because clearly there's going to be exploitation in that industry as well. So now we can eliminate that. And I think the best way I can present the counter argument to this, Rob, that I've considered is if you're encouraging an unhealthy desire, how far do you do that before it becomes worse? So, for instance, again, this is not going to be a PG discussion. What if the bot that you wanted was a child? You said, "Ooh, we just eliminated all child molesters." Well, did you, or did you encourage an evil, a bad thing, and then now spread more acceptably? Right? Am I now feeding into that evil impulse instead of dealing with it and eliminating it?
This is called hedonism, guys. It's a release to your base instincts. I mean, we understand it's a pleasurable thing, but those things exist for a reason. They're part of our biology to lead us forward. This isn't just so we can please ourselves and be happy. Intimacy goes far, far beyond this. And when you start feeding this thing out to people, they miss on all those great, wonderful things that can come with the human connection. I mean, this will never replace the connection. And even actual prostitution, which is a horrible, horrible industry, is a far better thing for humanity than the mannequin love thing, for a lot of reasons. This is like a vacuum cleaner gone wrong, man. That's what this is.
Brian, I'm interested in your response to that because haven't there been fairly well documented cases of people actually forming a connection with AI bots or something and marrying them?
Yeah, I don't know that I can take as hard of a line as Chuck on it. Like it is to me is a difficult thing. And Chuck, you brought up some points that we happened to ask Thomas Aquinas, the most brilliant person in history, I believe. He lived about 800 years ago, died in the 13th century. Um, about is this acceptable? So if AI bots could replace human prostitution, dramatically reduce human trafficking, would that be a good thing? And his this is our AI version, obviously, St. Thomas Aquinas, gave a pretty nuanced response that basically says, I mean, we can read the highlights here. It seems that such replacement would not be good, um, even if it reduced human trafficking. And this could habituate individuals in vices. Human trafficking does not arise solely from the demand for prostitution. Um, Actually, there's some research, separate discussion, but I have dug into this a bit, that in the United States, the majority of trafficking is actually laborers, not in the sex industry, trafficked for other things, basically. Um, Day labor type work, like just exploited for that. I mean, they're more like physical slaves than sex slaves. So it isn't going to address all of that. We'll have to be, specific to the sex side of human trafficking in that regard. Um, Although maybe the robots could actually address that as well if they're cheap enough. That's the problem, right? Actually, that might be the biggest hindrance. I don't know the cost of either service, but yeah, there could be a difference there. And so he talks about a few things that you really touched on, Chuck, is one is like the point of like why do we have uh sex? Like what's the point of it? Like, why is that part of the human condition? And of course, the reduction of trafficking is obviously a great good. The principle of double effect, that's actually an interesting one. It basically says like, could you do a lesser evil to promote to reduce a greater evil? And that's where I think it gets really nuanced. Like I think it should be clear to most people that promoting a disordered desire is not a good thing for humanity. So if you take that, Rob, to the natural conclusion, which I think these guys have done pretty well.
Oh, sound! I can't hear it. I can't hear it.
Oh, there's no sound?
No, there's no sound. Could you guys hear it? This is like the apocalypse. You have to have sound on this, man.
Not expecting this Futurama episode, but it fits perfectly into it.
It is absolutely,
Have
it's
you
the
seen it?
public service
Oh, yeah.
announcement everybody needs. Yeah.
I've watched this multiple times.
See, I'm not the only one. Okay.
You're kind of the only one.
Yeah.
The only
The
why
only one I need.
Just you two.
it's only been dropped and brought back like 6 times. It's me and Chuck are the
It's an
only two people.
amazing comeback show, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a whole season on Hulu my kid wants me to watch with her, but I don't have time.
You get the audio yet?
I don't know. Can one of you share it then and play it? Because I'm just not seeing an option to do
You increase the YouTube
Didn't
volume.
didn't we hear the one earlier?
Yeah, we heard the Ex Machina one.
You turn
Machina.
your volume down?
Something.
wait, turn my mic down?
No, don't turn your.
But that seems the opposite of what we want.
Brian, on your share screen, there's an option when you hit share to share sound as well.
All right, let's try it again then. Share.
You can cut this out.
I don't know.
Share.
This is the most.
There we go. Share
part
sound.
of me. I'm
You're
in.
totally right, Rob.
There's authentic content.
There we go.
You're still here, well done.
I think we jumped out.
Ordinary human dating. It's enjoyable and it serves an important purpose. But when a human dates an artificial mate, there is no purpose, only enjoyment. And that leads to tragedy.
Neato, a Marilyn Monroe bot.
You're a real dreamboat.
Billy every teen.
Harmless fun? Let's see what happens next.
Wait a sec. What did the Marilyn Monroe bot say?
Billy Average Teen or
Yeah,
something.
Billy Average Teen.
That's his name?
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was
yeah, that's in her.
Oh, so this is prior to GPT or
Yeah.
advanced audio mode.
Yeah, advanced book. Yeah.
Got it.
Billy, do you want to walk your dog?
No thanks, Mom. I'd rather make out with my Monroe bot.
Billy, do you want to get a paper route and earn some extra cash?
No thanks, Dad. I'd rather make out with my Monroe bot.
Billy, do you want to come over tonight? We can make out together.
Gee, Mavis, your house is across the street. That's an awfully long way to go for making out.
Did you notice what went wrong in that scene? Ordinarily, Billy would work hard to make money with his paper route. Then he'd use the money to buy dinner for Mavis, thus earning a slim chance to perform the reproductive act. But in a world where teens can date robots, why should he bother? Why should anyone bother? Let's take a look at Billy.
So this basically made the same point as Thomas Aquinas, in that essentially what they're saying is if you can further promote vice instead of virtue, that ultimately there's going to be bad outcomes of that.
Or without full context, this video is just promoting the fact wrongly that women need to be bought something before having sex with another man. No?
Oh, well, yeah, there was that point there too, but you're focused on the wrong part of the story, Rob.
Billy's planet a year later. Where are all the football stars? And where are the biochemists? They're trapped in the soft, vice-like grip of robot lips. All civilization was just an effort to impress the opposite sex. And sometimes the same sex. Now, let's skip forward 80 years into the future.
I'd never heard that statement before. It's an
Yeah.
interesting claim. All of civilization was an attempt to impress the opposite sex.
Do you agree with it?
I have to think about that for a little bit.
I
'cause-
almost definitely do. I almost everything I do in my life is for my wife.
He didn't say all, but probably 90, high 90s%. Whether that's, yeah.
All right, so the counter arguments to this would be something like women look nice mostly for other women, right? Like the shoes they buy, the things that they wear, the little purses that like I have no idea what any of this stuff is. So I think there is a difference between the male and the female position on this because all of that little stuff that they do, the guys really don't notice the detail, maybe like overall, isn't for isn't for the opposite sex in that regard. So there is some nuance here. But
Did say to impress, not necessarily to gain the affection of. So it just you're trying to impress someone, whether it's other girls, other guys, other whatever, whether it's romantically, whether it's for a business opportunity, whether it's you always do something to impress and try to move your life forward in some way.
I mean, when you look at sports, are you doing that really to impress the opposite sex? Like if we look at professional athletes,
So why does the head quarterback get the cheerleader?
Right? I
And
mean,
why do
that's
people
all
want to be the
sports
head
is about.
quarterback?
It's about impressing. It's about showing that you
but
are
is that the
confident,
reason
that
you
you
do
have
it?
power, that strength. Absolutely.
I feel like that's a
Probably,
benefit.
probably not the original reason, but after you get to a certain point, you're like, yeah, there's lots of
Puberty.
benefits to this.
So after puberty, that goal changes.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, seems like it.
Yeah.
yeah, so there's an indirect, I would say there's an indirect correlation there, but maybe I did sports for the wrong reason. That's also a possibility.
Where's Billy?
Farewell.
The next day, Billy's planet was destroyed by aliens. Have you guessed the name of Billy's planet? It was Earth. Don't date robots!
Brought to you by Space Pope.
All right, I didn't see the alien thing coming or how that was relevant.
Futurama, it's
We
always
do seem to be making fun of Christianity here, right? That is a cross. So yeah, I don't know.
That's interesting though. Why they chose a space pope and not a space president? Why did they do that?
Well,
If you've seen the presidents in the US, that'll give you some reasons why
It
it
might
wouldn't
be
be a
because
president.
it's more
because they often play with
long
religion in
term.
that show. It's
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this has been
they
14
have
years
the
ago. Which
robot
president would you
temple.
even have up here?
It's more
And
controversial.
also,
I don't know if
That's
they're
that's
making
what
fun of as much as just keeping it relevant.
yeah.
is that what it is?
I think so.
So is this where we're at now then? Is that what we're saying? Like that video was what, like 6, 7 more
14
years
years
ago?
ago.
Oh, that
14.
video,
14.
Now
14
we're,
years. And, you know, this is the crazy thing. This one
the days
here,
arrived.
the article alone, that
so
article.
this company that was making these bots, this article was 6 years old. Like this was before GPT 1.0 API version was available. These guys were out. And, like, I don't want to look at today's, you know, more products. We haven't updated our research, but clearly this is a thing. Clearly this is becoming bigger, and it's hard for me to completely dismiss that it could potentially reduce a grave evil. And to some degree, it might be. And here's the, I guess, you know, another problem. Think of it like maybe this gets more people into disordered conduct, and then they feel like, well, ultimately, I still need a human, and then it increases, right? So it's kind of like the cotton gin, right? The Luddites destroyed the cotton gins because they were going to take all the jobs because, you know, the machines were replacing the humans making clothing. But then what happened? Well, people, instead of having two sets of clothing, they now have 30. And so the employees over the next 100 years in the UK working in the textile industry exploded. It increased like 50-fold because the demand for clothing was so much higher. And the clothing didn't last as long. They didn't take as good care of it. They didn't just patch it. They threw it away and got a new one and so on. So something like this, to me, seems like it has the real possibility of increasing the demand for exploitation because you've essentially replaced that human connection with a hedonistic desire. Like now, the entire act, the entire benefit, the pleasure that you're getting from it is all about me using something else and then putting that onto another human because these are going to be pretty darn realistic. Is going to be like your mind's not going to really know the difference logically. Like you can break it down and say, yeah, I get this is a robot, this is human, but you're literally training your brain to expect this other person to serve your needs, or you're just never going to be able to have a healthy relationship.
I had a question at this point. Do we think that it's mostly or majority men that are about to, fall victim, if we can say that are about to go with this? Based on everything that we've seen Futurama's video, this is clearly aimed at men. Is that what we're thinking?
So if we look at
mm,
the history of humanity, yes,
it-
because if men want or if women want to settle to serve their hedonistic desires, it's pretty quick and easy to do.
We have machines for that.
Well, yeah, I was going to say, like, is this not just a male sex toy? Because there's a huge market for that, but not many. I think the market for male sex toys is much smaller than female sex toys. So what's
Well,
the
that's a
difference
fair
here?
point. I haven't done the research on the size of those markets.
Wow, that's a
Yeah, that is
So,
that was good stuff there.
but I think that all comes back to, are you feeding a vice through more stuff, right? So, example, porn wasn't available at the level it is 30 years ago. It is today.
well, think
And
300 years ago.
for 100 years,
Oh.
exactly, it wasn't available at all.
So there's a
Cable,
good data point, Greg. So I don't know if anybody be able to determine this. So like porn's more prevalent now than it was 100 years ago. Is sex trafficking up? Is prostitution up? Are these things now increased because of the access to something that is sort of the gateway drug, so to speak? So it's feeding into these hedonistic desires, therefore grow and blossom, so to speak, and therefore they lead to these other things that end up exploiting individual people. Was that less common? I don't I don't know. If you look at the history of slavery, that probably isn't the case. But we addressed slavery and didn't replace it with yeah, I don't that's a tricky one. I don't know that you could come up with a perfect way to determine that unless you had some sort of control experiment. I don't know who would participate in such an experiment with, are you more likely to get a prostitute if you watch porn or not? Yeah, sign me up for that one. Let's see how that works out. Uh,
no, but like, is
it's
that
for
the
science,
question?
honey. It's for science.
Okay, you guys have not seen the TV show Humans, I guess, right? It's about 10 years old. You don't remember Humans? Okay, I'm gonna send you a link to the Wikipedia. Listen, the actress that plays like the lead android in this show is amazing. She feels very much like an android. She's stunningly beautiful and just very, very good. Actually, everybody in that show is very good, but it's all about the world that we're talking about. Not necessarily the adult stuff and the prostitution, but a lot of that's involved in the storyline. It's a great TV show if you get a chance to sit down and watch it. And I think it will explain a lot of where we're headed with this stuff because I think they did a really good job of foreseeing some things, or at least raising questions.
So to Rob's point, I don't know the answer to that if this is mostly male. I think your point is a two-part, if I understood it. One is like women already have a solution. They don't need the
The
full
prostitution isn't
robot.
okay. Prostitution isn't always about sex. It's not always about the physical thing. A lot of times it's about people needing to be close to something, close to somebody. There's an intimacy thing there. They just need somebody to hold or to make them feel important. This can go far beyond that. This can be an emotional connection where it can truly fake, like being your lover, your best friend, your greater thing.
Sure.
So it's far different from what we think of currently as prostitution because it can literally go from being mine to being the next person's to being the next person's. But none of it's real. There's a falsehood to it.
I think I saw a movie where they called it like the girlfriend experience or something like that. Like there is this sort of like desire to actually like be able to text, like
Her,
tell her
oh,
about your
the
work or your
movie
job
Her.
or something, and it's more than just the physical interaction. Like there is some sort of communication thing there, and clearly this isn't a topic any of us have well researched, but that does make sense because it is, is an underlying deeper desire there. So the solution is, this is I think is a good point to make. I don't know that it's the only point to make, but anytime you promote vice, ultimately you're not going to have true human happiness or true human flourishing. And that's essentially what this ends up being.
Yeah, I think these will actually be extremely popular with women, and I'll tell you why. It's because of the need for emotional connection. I think that's stronger on the feminine side. Have you guys ever read a Harlequin romance novel? Any
A
romance
what?
romance novels? Like a Harlequin romance or a no?
No. I had a friend in high school recommend that I did that,
Emma
and I
Claire book?
haven't yet.
I've read dozens. Okay, if you really want to understand women, read the things that women like. Read what they want.
Makes
That will
perfect
tell you
sense.
what they want. And I can tell you they want intimacy. They want somebody to listen to them. They want somebody to care about them. They want somebody who's strong, but not somebody who's going to take over their lives. They want somebody who will protect them, but who will also allow them to protect them and nurture them as well. So you see
Which
all of
part
it
of the AI bot won't be able to do that?
now.
That's his point, is
That's
that
my
he
point.
sees.
I think it's very strong for women. I think it will be much, much stronger than it will be for men for just that. I
Oh,
think for men, it's much more of a physical type thing, but women are much more emotional than men, generally speaking.
all
And
right, but I'm saying the AI bot can do all those things you just described pretty darn well,
that's
right?
what I'm saying. They
Like
absolutely.
Terminator.
Hmm.
Terminator was the protector.
Yeah,
You just have
Did
to,
what he had
but you have
to.
to build in some flaws into the bot though, because women do
For the
like to
fix.
absolutely.
fix.
Gotta
Yeah,
have a scar on his cheek or something. Yeah, I had that
Some
permanent
picadillos.
Firefox. Just like men, women are going to want them to be modifiable. Some of them like the soft, doughy dad bod, and some want the bad boy biker guy. I
All
don't
right,
think
so
I like
from
this conversation. What are we talking about now?
well, from a theoretical perspective, we can discuss the ethics of this. From a practical perspective, is there any way to stop it?
Oh no! Oh no! It won't stop.
Like this is going to start replacing prostitution,
Oh yeah, this is
trafficking,
a billion,
pornography, like all of these things are
multi-billion
going to be
dollar.
replaced by AI, right?
Mhm.
Like to a large degree. So then, minus the aliens destroying planet Earth, what happens in that world when, I don't know, one or two out of uh, five males and females don't have a relationship with another live human being? What does that look like?
Well, those
Aren't we over
genetic lines, they don't proceed. They die
aren't we
out.
overpopulated right now?
Yeah, they want you to think that.
Well, it
Are we?
depends on who you ask. It also
In
depends
what
on
part
if
of
you
the
have
country?
social programs to pay for retirement. If you have to pay for retirement for older citizens in your country, then pretty much every country in the world is underpopulated.
Don't worry about climate change. The ozone hole's fine.
Yeah,
I mean, yeah, sure, everything's gonna flood and stuff, but that's just around the coast. It's a constant thing. If it wasn't, then the Romans would still be around, man. I mean, it's just something we have to adapt to. You just adapt to the changing world. It's a constant. It's not something we can affect, really.
I mean, China's realized they have population collapse, and now instead of the one-child policy, they now are encouraging people to have children, right? Because population collapse is going to destroy your country, like your economy. You need people that are young to work, to make money, to pay taxes. Like that's just inevitable
Well,
if you have any sort of social services for older individuals. And healthcare is what, 10 times higher if you're in your 70s than if you're in your teens and those types of things. Like, so yeah, I mean, it would depend on what you mean by overpopulation. Like what is the problem?
I mean, Bill
And
Gates would say yes.
yeah, he would definitely say yes. There's a lot of people who would say yes, but you'd have to break that down and say what does that mean?
Yeah.
Um, anyway, so if that is the case, even if it isn't, like it does seem likely
well,
that our
no.
already very low birth rates, most
Here's the thing:
countries,
you just replace humans with bots, and the bots are taking care of all the old people for much cheaper, and the bots are doing your economy, and the bots are
I'm
doing
I'm
stuff.
watching the Omnibots and all this stuff for that very reason. I have elderly relatives and stuff, and I'm going to be elderly soon. Wouldn't it be nice to have somebody help me get out of bed? I got bad hips and stuff. Help pick things up, carry the groceries in.
so that's an interesting point though, Greg, because essentially what you're saying is it's not just the healthcare side of it. They still got to eat, they still have to have a home, they still have to, get around and whatever else. But if the bot's helping us make the food and the bot's helping us drive because it's a self-driving car and et cetera, like every aspect of humanity would need to go down in expense. And then does that solve the problem? If everything costs less, you know, we donated some money to an organization that used 3D printed houses to build houses for people that didn't have homes. And it was like, I think the original was plan was like 6 grand, but they went up to like 12 grand to build a home for somebody with a 3D printer, right? Like, okay, so now we can build 3D printed homes that are a fraction of the cost. So does that solve the problem? The cost of everything go down, so now we don't need as many humans paying taxes?
Wouldn't hurt.
What's that?
Not sure, it wouldn't hurt, but I'm not sure what an economy looks like that would look like.
Massive deflation.
Oh yeah.
Yes, that gets crazy. And I think there's actually a valid point there, particularly on the healthcare side. I literally had a meeting with my doctor, my PCP yesterday, and I have some complex health things I've been working on and whatever. And I was like, yeah, I got these 9 supplements that I'm taking and changed my diet, changed my workout routine, whatever else. Here's my strategy. She was like, well, this is everybody that has this issue that you're talking about, like, comes to me begging for pills. Like they just want the medicine. Like, and you're spending all this time figuring out how to like solve it. I was like, yeah, I don't really want to be on medicine the rest of my life. Like, she's like, that's amazing. Like, so what can I do better? Like, what am I missing? She's like, this is perfect. I wouldn't change anything. You're doing exactly what I would recommend. And I was like, yeah, well, thank you, AI. And she didn't really get it because I was like, are you guys using AI in medicine? She's like, oh yeah, they're using it to scan, biopsies and whatever else and like X-rays. That's what it was, X-rays. I'm like, yeah, okay, great. That's old news. But she didn't connect that like the entire protocol that I put together was from AI, and she should be doing the same for her patients. And I didn't take the time to explain all of it, but that was just part of my $20 a month GPT subscription, and now I have clearly the best medical advice I've ever had in my entire life. So I get it, the cost will come down, but I don't know if that solves the problem. And I guess the bigger problem with today's discussion is it inevitable that you're going to get like basically, if you replace the need for the desire for sex, people are just going to stop reproducing, right? Like that's
Oh yeah.
just
But look, I'll be honest. It's morally reprehensible to me. I think it's a terrible thing. But I would invest because this is a billion dollar industry. And what somebody else's morals lead them to do is, I mean, I'll tell them straight up. I think it's a bad idea. Where's your credit card, my friend?
What's the difference between
Long as
this and
they're
a prostitute then? Why is this any different? With prostitution
well,
is
because you
the
have to
oldest,
hire
the
somebody
oldest
or find
profession,
another
and
bot to
yet
clean these.
this is just another branch of it. So
You're assuming
why is humanity
prostitution
going to
is
end?
you're assuming prostitution isn't also a vice and morally reprehensible as Chuck
Again, like when did I
claimed.
say that, Greg? Like I've not said that. I've just said it's been around forever. So like, why
So-
is this any different? Like, why is the world going to change dramatically because of this?
The accessibility of things changes greatly. Brian says, if you can buy 50 pairs of clothes, you're going to have different than if you buy one.
it's an access
You
thing,
can
I
get-
would think, Rob.
Yeah, if you can access porn
Prostitution
any
is still
moment,
accessible.
Is
It
it?
was
this will be
accessible
way more
yesterday.
accessible. This will be
It was
way more
accessible
accessible.
a year ago.
No,
Yeah,
but
but
then,
is
so
it?
here's another example. You could travel from England to the U.S. in when early 1900s. How long would it take by boat? Now you can do it in 4 hours. That's why people are more mobile, more moving, more stuff. And that changes greatly society. That changes how you impact, how you do things, how you communicate, your business, your life, everything. So literally accessibility and ease of doing things greatly changes society.
Yeah, like I mean, to push back a little bit there, Rob, if you were like, you have, I don't know, a day to find a prostitute or I'm going to kill you. Um, Maybe I could do that. I like literally wouldn't even know where to start. Like, how do you do, like, is it accessible? Whereas if like this business, it's like, okay, find a sex bot. Like, all right, we just found the article. I just contact this company and go out to San Marcos, Texas and say, hey, what do you guys have cooking up there? Like, problem solved. So that would be my accessibility argument. Sure, it's out there. Is it as easy as just getting on the website and saying, give me what this is what I want? I don't think it's that easy right now. And there's also like this made an interesting point with the Monroe bot. It's like, okay, so then you found whatever access that I have within my physical proximity. Is it going to be like Marilyn Monroe or whatever my desire is? Probably not. I mean, I don't know, but I'm guessing no. It's not going to be, ideal or perfect or whatever you want to say. So I don't know. I guess my initial thought would be if you could eliminate all sex trafficking by doing this, that's good in the short term. In the long term, though, I think it's going to end up like the clothing, that it's going to actually increase prostitution and sex trafficking. It's going to feed people the uh, disordered desire to make other human beings their property, there for their personal use and pleasure, and that will never be 100% replaced by a bot, and therefore that will just extend to humanity.
I feel like nothing's going to change. I feel like it's just another industry. It's just another way to make money, but ultimately humanity won't change.
Because that's been the rate of progress with technology. Nothing's ever changed whenever we add new technology.
Not really. Not the basics. I mean,
Yeah, like
Our desires don't change, but how we interact with them does change. So you're saying pre-internet porn to porn now, society hasn't changed?
no, I'm not saying that. Definitely, I feel like it's probably worse dating now, definitely as a woman, I would imagine, than it was pre-internet porn. But I don't think that the birth rate in certain countries is dropping because of accessibility to sex toys or
Yes,
prostitution.
yes. Actually, maybe that is true. If we look at first
There
world
needs to
versus third
be
world countries, first world countries have much lower birth rates. Maybe there is a correlation there.
Could also be a correlation
maybe
to our disordered pleasures that we're able to um, find more in first world countries than you can in a third world country. We're able to feed our desires much easier in a first world country than a third world country.
Well, the other thing that's a bigger picture there, I think, is okay, if in a first world country I'm able to satisfy my personal needs, whatever they are, it could be lust, it could be greed, it could be gluttony, it could be sloth, it could be any of these things more easily because I have a social network or a social system, sorry, that's supporting me and so on, or I just have more access to capital and resources, I'm going to become more self-centered, right? I'm going to become more, what can I do for me? Meaning, well, geez, if I have a bunch of kids, I don't get to sleep as much. I don't get to go to the gym as much. I don't get to go do the things I want to do. I got to give up my motorcycle time. I got to, oh, wait, I have a wife. Geez, she's going to have certain things she's going to want me to do. I'm not going to be able to just go watch F1 all the time. And like, there's these responsibilities that come with that. So, like, I think there is a pretty compelling argument here. If you go to first world countries where people are more successful, have more money, their their family sizes diminish. And I would say anecdotally, and what I've seen through the families that I know, that is a big factor when people will be like, "Well, we have two new cars and we have a nice house and we go out to dinner 3 times a week, but we can't afford a third child." It's like, well, what? That doesn't even make sense. Like, what do you mean you can't afford like? But that's the argument. That's an accepted one, and that's normal. And, oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, they're expensive and whatever else. But a generation ago, it's like, well, we can't really afford the eighth child. And they had a quarter of the income that the person with two children can't now afford, right? And life's actually gotten cheaper. Most of the things that we want, food and so on, as a percentage of income is actually less expensive than it was because of a whole lot of reasons. Whether the food's healthier or not is a whole different debate. But my point is, I do think Greg has an interesting point there that the more you go towards personally satisfying me and not how do I help live in love, helping and caring for and serving other people, that you do end up with different outcomes. And I don't know that we could say that those are positive. Wrap it
we
up
hit
there
our
unless Rob's
endpoint.
got a counter.
It's could go on for days.
All right. That's it for today then.